With the release of Cruis'n Blast on the Nintendo Switch pretty well behind us, longtime Cruis'n fans might now be wondering where the series could go from here. My video about the announcement of Cruis'n Blast coming to the Switch was one of the most popular videos on my channel, so today I thought we'd take a look back at how well Cruis'n Blast did on the Switch, discuss some of series creator Eugene Jarvis's recent public statements about what his studio Raw Thrills will be working on next, and what that could mean for the Cruis'n series going forward. And real quick, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. And with that out of the way, let's turn up some butt rock and see where the road takes us. So I came away from Cruis'n Blast with a very positive impression. I was lucky enough to get an early review code for the game, and even though I was racing to get my review together in time, I still had so much fun blasting through all the outlandish courses while leveling up even more outlandish vehicles. It felt like a perfect return to form for the Cruis'n series, a heavy dose of nostalgic 90s era arcade racing with a laser focus on fun. There were a few disappointing omissions from the arcade version of Blast, and the lack of online multiplayer is probably my biggest gripe with the release, but Eugene Jarvis and the team at Raw Thrills have been teasing upcoming updates for Cruis'n Blast, including online multiplayer. Jarvis also recently did a Reddit AMA a few months back over on the Nintendo Switch subreddit, and I was lucky enough to have him respond to my question. Beyond that, there were also quite a few interesting things said regarding Cruis'n Blast, the potential of the original arcade trilogy coming to Switch, as well as what could be next for the series. So with the online multiplayer, it seems like that could be the update we might see first. Reddit user Levindice, who happened to hold several world records in the Cruis'n games, asked Eugene about the potential for an online multiplayer mode update to Cruis'n Blast, and Eugene responded with, quote, "Online multiplayer is our next goal." Now, I couldn't find exact sales data anywhere, but Eugene had previously mentioned that if the game sold over 500,000 units, Raw Thrills would add DLC to Blast. So this must mean that sales for the game at least met their expectations, even with next to no marketing from Nintendo. When Reddit user Caspian X2 asked how the team felt about the overall response to Cruis'n Blast, Eugene said it was much better than expected, although he went on to admit that Raw Thrills hasn't been known for their development speed, so we could still be waiting a bit for that online multiplayer update, even if it is their next goal. Next up, we have the prospect of the Cruis'n trilogy of USA, World, and Exotica coming to the Nintendo Switch in some form. User Mutant Broom asked Eugene about his previous comments to Nintendo Life about bringing the arcade trilogy to Switch, and if Nintendo 64 games now being part of Nintendo Switch Online could mean the Nintendo 64 ports could end up on that service. Eugene responded with, quote, "I'd love to see it happen. I'll talk to Miyamoto and see what we can do." Obviously, he's probably joking about the Miyamoto part, but I do think it means he could be legitimately looking at ways to make it happen. Personally, I think I'd prefer a standalone arcade trilogy collection. I loved the Nintendo 64 ports, but their arcade counterparts really are the superior experience. There was also a brief mention of remaking the original Cruis'n trilogy with modern graphics, but I got the impression that that was more of a pipe dream than an actual potential project. And finally, that brings us to what could be next for Cruis'n and my question for Eugene. So here's what I wrote. Hey Eugene, massive Cruis'n fan here. If you were to make another game in the series, what are some themes that sound fun to you? As a kid, I always thought that Cruis'n Universe or Galaxy would be an awesome way to continue the progression from USA to World. I know there was a Mars track in Exotica, but I'm talking an entirely space-themed outing. Eugene responded with, quote, "Yeah man, the Galaxy is where it's at. It always seems like everything has already been done, but we have to dig deep with some really cool new ideas for the next one. The Galaxy is definitely on the table. Black holes, supernovas, what could go wrong?" It was so cool to not only hear back from Eugene, but also see that he was at least considering going in that direction. Even though I loved Blast, I think it sort of lacked the same cohesive theme as USA or World. Even Exotica was a little loose in that department. I think a space-themed or extraterrestrial outing could be a perfect way to continue the series tradition of offering more and more outlandish locales. Maybe the races wouldn't even need to take place in space itself, but each one could be on a different alien planet with different terrain, wildlife, and maybe even gravity. They did already experiment with a low-gravity course with the final race of Cruis'n World taking place on the moon, so who knows, maybe we could see a return to something similar with the next game. Let me know down in the comments what you would like to see from the next Cruis'n installment. Would you enjoy a galaxy-themed expedition, or would you like to see something in an entirely different direction? Also, if you have yet to check out Cruis'n Blast, I can't recommend it enough. Plus, it's recently seen a permanent price drop down to $19.99, a total bargain at that price for the amount of fun the game provides. So I think that's going to do it for today. Hopefully we don't have to wait quite as long this time around for the next proper Cruis'n installment, and in the meantime, we have online multiplayer in Cruis'n Blast to look forward to. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like on your way out and also consider subscribing. And until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.